The golden autumn is refreshing, the sweet-scented osmanthus is fragrant and fragrant. Mew Mansion, the red lanterns hang high at the entrance. The flowers are full of flowers, the pavilions are covered in red, and it is a joyous scene. Today is the birthday of the old lady of the Mew Mansion. I will use the strength of the whole family to invite guests widely to congratulate the old lady on her birthday. In the main hall, the old birthday star, the old lady Mew, was dressed in wealth, sitting in the middle like a star holding the moon, smiling and entertaining the female relatives. All of them were dressed in brocade and jewels. It's really a fire cooking oil, flowers are brocade. Her granddaughters are by her side, each more beautiful than the other. Among them, standing at the forefront is the Mew family's eldest granddaughter, Mew Jinyeo, and her father is the head of the Mew family, the official household servant. She is beautiful and full of talent. She is the most famous lady in the capital. There are women in the family who ask for it, and since she was 10 years old, the threshold of the family has been broken by the matchmaker. No, I said a perfect marriage as soon as I got married. Today's protagonist is naturally Mrs. Mew. She has 2 sons and 2 daughters together. The 2 daughters are also married well, and there is a granddaughter who is famous in the capital. The future is promising. Mew Jinyeo was wearing a golden snow satin jacket with peony strands, embroidered with dense patterns, and a pink brocade skirt. She became more and more attractive. The old lady Mew rubbed her slender hand with kindness in her eyes. The most proud thing in my life is to teach such an excellent granddaughter, having her is better than countless. Hey, speaking of which I don't want her to marry. The most important thing is that Zhang Minjai's aunt is the most favored concubine in the palace, and maybe she will be able to improve it in the future. Mew Jinyeo blushed and glanced at the lady of Ding Yuanho's mansion on the left, her future mother-in-law. The graceful Mrs. Ding Yuanho smiled at her with a gentle smile, obviously liked her very much. Mew Jinyeo was overjoyed and couldn't help but look forward to a better life in the future. She stole the limelight, and the other girls were unhappy in their hearts, but they didn't show their faces. They stood up and gave birthday gifts to the old lady. Some were painting, some were playing the piano, some were making poetry. There are those who send hand-embroidered clothes on the forehead to show filial piety. Not only show talent, but also get a good reputation of filial piety, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Everyone's talents won the applause, the laughter continued, and the atmosphere was extremely warm. The second bedroom granddaughter Mew Wangqing lowered her eyes slightly, standing quietly and low-key in the crowd, extremely inconspicuous. At this moment, there was a loud noise outside. The mistress of the house, Mrs. Mew, frowned slightly, a trace of displeasure flashed in her eyes, and she winked at the old man beside her. The guests looked at each other and felt that the Mew family could not manage the family. I saw a girl scrambling and rushing in, her face terrified, her lips trembling, and she couldn't say anything. It's not good, Wei Wei is here. The Mew family was like a thunderclap, their faces all changed, and they were so frightened. How could this be? It's Wei Wei. Responsible for supervising hundreds of officials, arresting, interrogating, and being directly accountable to the emperor, it is a frightening existence. Old Mrs. Mew was dizzy, her eyes were black for a while, there was only one thought in her mind, it was all over. She fell to the ground, and the Mew family exclaimed, "Old lady!" The guests immediately dispersed like birds and beasts. Mrs. Ding Yuanho stood up and left without saying a word. Mew Jinyeo looked at the future mother-in-law who fled, and her heart sank sharply. "Do it!" The man gave an order, and the wolf-like Wu Yiwei rushed in and turned over the boxes. The man in black swept the tiger's eyes, his eyes were like electricity, and his imposing manner was threatening. "Hand over all the valuable things on your body, only keep the clothes, don't force me to be searched, then." The meaning of the words is self-evident. The female family members of the Mew family panicked. Mew Wangqing trembled and pulled out the bead hairpin on her head and the jade bracelet on her hand. Just as she was about to hand it in, she didn't know what was under her feet, and she fell out and fell heavily at the feet of the man in black. Passed out immediately. The sudden change made everyone stunned, and a voice full of shock and pain sounded, "Chinger!" Mu Wangking just felt so noisy, the noises, the cries, the pleadings were endless. "Wan Qing, Chinger, wake up! Who is crying her name? Still crying so sad?" She tried her best to clear the fog, step by step, struggling to the light in front of her. Closer, closer, a white light flashed. She opened her eyes suddenly. Where is this? A few worried faces, male and female. Who are they? The woman cried with joy, "Chinger, you're awake, it's great, you scared your parents." "Chinger, what's wrong?" The middle-aged man with a beard was full of concern. "Sister." The two teenagers gathered around, with red eyes, obviously crying. Mu Wangking looked blank. Where is this? A lot of memories suddenly appeared in her mind, past and present lives intertwined, and the amount of information was so overwhelming that her head felt unbearable, and she couldn't help hugging her head. Is this wearing a book? Wear it on a little girl with the same name and surname? The Great Qi dynasty? She doesn't remember this era. Before she could think about it, she was hugged tightly by the woman, like a lost treasure. "Chinger, don't be afraid, both parents are here." The boy with the head and head was full of distress. "Sister, does it hurt?" Mu Wangking looked at the four people in front of her and felt very cordial. This was her relative. The concern and worry in their eyes are like a warm current flowing into their hearts, and their feelings for their families naturally spread deep in their bodies. She seems to have inherited the feelings of the original owner. "It hurts." She touched her forehead and broke a hole, which has been dealt with simply. She is naturally coquettish, soft, with a trace of grievance, exactly the same as before. Mr. Mu carefully wiped the dried blood on Mu Wangking's forehead with a handkerchief, and kept coaxing her. Other family members surrounded her to comfort her. Mu Wangking's eyes are slightly hot. Is this the love of parents and brothers? In her previous life, her parents died early, and she grew up with her grandfather. Grandpa loved her very much, but he is a member of the national think tank. He is too busy with work, and has a very rational and introverted personality. Show your feelings. She's a little out of love. Since her grandfather passed away, she has no family to worry about, and it doesn't matter where she goes. The sound of rummaging through boxes and cabinets rang in her ears. She looked around subconsciously. Scattered but not chaotic, well organized, obviously experienced in home raiding. The whole Mu family came to the mansion to celebrate the birthday of Mrs. Mu. No, it's all in one pot. The whole body exudes an aura of panic and fear, like a lost dog. Even the dignified head of the family, Mu Zongde, the former servant of the household, had messy hair, dull eyes, and a look of great stimulation. The building will collapse. Hey, is she wearing to the scene of the raid? What a tragic start, a disaster, she sighed silently. However, no matter how difficult it is, there is no time left. Countless thoughts flashed in her mind. She quickly digested all kinds of information, accepted the reality, and made a decision at the first time. She struggled to stand up and pinpointed the man in black who was commanding, "My lord, may I ask, what is the emperor's will?" Wu Dongming looked over in surprise. Was this girl a fool? Mu Zongde was dismissed for investigation, the Mu mansion was raided, and the entire Mu family was temporarily imprisoned. As soon as these words came out, the whole Mu family was terrified. Is even the clan implicated? How sinful is this? Only Mu Wangking's expression remained unchanged and her tone was calm. That is to say, the charges have been verified, but the final verdict has not yet been issued. Wu Dongming raised his eyebrows, and Mrs. Mu was stunned. The whole house, men, women, and children, was defeated by the cruel reality, and she only knew how to cry and beg for mercy. This girl is so calm, is it normal? Yes, Mu Zongd, the former servant of the Ministry of Home Affairs, embezzled and took bribes, wasted lives, fired and ransacked his house. Mu Zongd is both a third-rank official and the head of the Mu family. No one dares not to listen to his words, and one sentence can decide the fate of the Mu family. But at this moment, he is full of despair and his head is messed up. The third master Mu suddenly jumped up. That's my eldest brother's mistake, it's none of our business, my lord, let us go. He just wants to keep himself. The clansmen who came to the banquet screamed desperately, we are just a side branch, and we usually only communicate during the festivals. We don't know anything about Mu Zongd, my lord. Wu Dongming sneered, his eyes full of contempt, everyone, don't you understand the principle of one prosperity and one loss? These people usually relied on the power of the minister of the household to show off their power and gain a lot of benefits. Now that something has happened, I just want to clear the relationship, how can there be such a good thing? Wu Dongming glanced over with a cold eye, and his voice was terrifyingly cold, are you dissatisfied with the emperor's will? Are you resentful? It was like pouring down a basin of ice water from scratch, pouring the third master Mu into a panic, shaking his head frantically, no no no. He kept winking at his family, asking them to help quickly and say a few words to ease the atmosphere. However, everyone was so scared that Suoshuo trembled, and did not dare to speak out. Mu Wangqing sighed in her heart, no one could fight. Usually, one by one is terrifying, and when something happens, one is more cowardly. The uncle who can beat him the most is still immersed in the blow of his house being raided, and he has not woken up yet. She could only stand up and bowed her hands in the direction of the palace. Thunder, rain, and dew are all blessings from heaven, not to mention the evidence is there. If you do something wrong, you will be punished by the law, and the family will go up and down. I'll take it with my heart, and I don't dare to have any resentment. She is articulate and calm, as if she is the head of the family. The Mu family looked at her in disbelief, as if they didn't know her anymore. Is this the third Miss Mu family who is usually taciturn and can't fart with one punch? Mu Wangqing didn't care at all, her expression was calm, however, my lord, the emperor has not ordered our heads to be chopped off? There are always a few pairs, what do you think? She was taught by her grandfather, and she is rational and calm enough to make a living for herself in this situation. Wu Dongming looked at her deeply with a strange expression. Mu Wangqing gave him a slight smile, then hugged her head and let out a shrill scream, ouch, my head hurts so much, I'm going to see Lord Yama, here we go. I will tell the truth about who hurt me underground. By the way, my lord, what is your name? Wu Dongming's face almost couldn't hold back. Such a straightforward threat, such an exaggerated performance, this girl is a talent. Uncle Mu seemed to have finally reacted, sweating all over, shouting loudly, 3 girls, shut up, how can you speak in front of adults? Master Wu, she doesn't understand anything, so ignore her. Wu Dongming ignored him, but was very interested in Mu Wangqing. Miss Mu, what do you want to do? Mu Wangqing blinked her eyes, looking very innocent, I want to go to my house to get something. Of course, I will never take anything of value. It already belongs to the treasury and the emperor. The emperor is wise and martial, not only the ruler of the world, but also the father of the common people like me. The words of the father are always right, you must obey obediently, and you must not live up to the kindness of the emperor. She blew a wave of rainbow farts, showing her fanatical loyalty and love to the emperor. The sound of air conditioning reverberated frequently at the scene, and even Wu Yiwei who ransacked the house stopped and looked at this magical girl. Now all ladies are, so shameless? No, it's a matter of time. The 4 members of the Mu family's second room rubbed their eyes in unison. This is indeed their daughter/little sister. Uncle Mu is the person who wants face the most. Seeing this toughest niece act as a demon, I can't help but feel ashamed and annoyed. 3 girls, don't make trouble anymore. Mu Wangqing didn't hear it, staring at Wu Dongming with big eyes. A deep light flashed in Wu Dongming's eyes. According to the rules, only one piece of clothing is allowed. He picked up a brocade box the size of a palm from the ground. Give you a column of incense time, only fill this box. Mu Wangqing took the box and answered happily, Hallie, thank you sir, you are a good person, I wish you a long life, 1,000 years of wealth, and endless descendants. Rainbow fart came when he opened his mouth. Wu Dongming's mouth twitched. Mu Wangqing has achieved her goal, so she doesn't care what others think. She waved at the timid teenager, second brother, come and carry me, my head hurts and I can't run fast. Mu Xiang, who was named, was shocked by his sister's behavior. He was always simple-minded and did what he did subconsciously, bending down in front of Mu Wangqing. Wu Dongming named his two subordinates to stare at him the whole time. As soon as they left, a subordinate asked curiously, Sir, why is this? Wu Dongming looked inexplicable, I want to see what medicine she sells in the gourd. It can only be said that she succeeded in arousing his curiosity. The question is this step done inadvertently? Still interested? The hearts of Mu's family suddenly raised, nervous, uneasy, and a little angry. Pingshan Courtyard is the courtyard where the Tobidrum family lives, with one main room and two wing rooms, east and west wing rooms. The courtyard is very small, and the location is very remote. Mu Wangqing stood in the yard and glanced around, knowing that the situation of the second room was not good. Mrs. Mu passed away 5 years ago. Mrs. Mu is the old lady in the mansion and has the highest status. There are 3 rooms in the Mu mansion. The second wife, Mu Zhongping, has no official position. The third daughter, Mu Zongwen, is deeply loved by her parents. She is a well-known dude in the city. She has already sorted out her thoughts. Second brother, do you remember what I said on the way? Mu Xiang Momo nodded, remember. Mu Wangqing patted him lightly, there is only 1 stick of incense, move separately and start. Following her words, Mu Xiang rushed towards the east wing like an arrow from Xian. 2 black-clothed guards looked at each other, and one of them immediately followed. And Mu Wangqing rushed into the main room, which was her parents' bedroom. She ran to a cabinet according to her memory, opened the door familiarly, and turned out a box, which contained bottles and jars, and each bottle had a label. Bezor Kingzhen pills, Kingwenjadub pills, Kusha pills, Huaxiang Genki pills, Tiaoei Zai pills, etc. She glanced at it hastily, and before she could take a closer look, she shoved all her brains into the box, and the box was still a third empty. She was too hasty, and accidentally knocked over the box next to her, and a few things fell out. She picked it up and saw that it was the marriage certificate of the 3 of them. Marriage certificate? With a thought, she rolled up the marriage book and threw it into the box. With a little more time, she ran to the small kitchen and searched. It's time. Wu Yiwei next to him said. Mu Wangqing closed the full box and let out a long breath. Mu Xiang ran out of the east wing with a bunch of things in his arms. Sister, I'm fine. He is just a tool person, he will do what his sister says. Anyway, he's lost his mind. Mu Wangqing snatched the men's jacket from his hand without saying a word, and put it on herself one by one in front of the official. She is the youngest and has not grown up yet. Mu Xiang's clothes are loose on her body. She put the men's soap boots on her feet again, and after a while, she bulged like a fat bun. Wu Yiwei was stunned and amazed. When they returned to the lobby, everyone looked over and was instantly stunned. Xiang, Qing'er, you. Mu Eryi looked at a pair of sons and daughters who had changed so much that he almost dared not recognize them. What's the situation? Wu Dongming said coldly, only 1 piece of clothing is allowed. Not only was she not afraid, but Mu Wangqing took a few steps closer and turned around. Sir, I'm all dressed up, I'm cold, so it's not against the law to wear more clothes, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. She wore 4 coats. Well, Mu Xiang also wore 4 coats and wrapped himself in sweat. He just did as his sister ordered. As for the reason, he doesn't know. Sister's tone is too strong, he has no resistance at all. It's the second brother's soap boots, which are a bit big, so she stuffed 2 more handkerchiefs. Bring the box here. Mu Wangqing slightly hooked her lips, which was acquiescence. She handed over the box generously, please. Wu Dongming rummaged through the contents, and the first thing he saw was 3 marriage papers. Don't forget to turn out the marriage papers at this time, do you want to ask others for help? Although the second room of the Mu family is not taken seriously, it is related to the face of the Mu family. The arrangement for Mu Wangqing was the concubine of a 5th-rank official, who was considered a match. Of course, it can't be compared with the marriage of the first-class family. The Mu family looks very complicated. If something like this happens, they can only count on relatives and friends. Uncle Mu and his wife subconsciously looked at their most proud daughter. Mu Jinyao's future husband's family is a noble mansion, and there is a noble concubine. As long as the noble concubine says a few good words to the emperor, sure can persuade the emperor to change his mind. Thinking of this, the couple were excited and felt hopeful. Mu Wangqing is not optimistic, she can't change the overall situation, she can only follow the trend. Find out the most beneficial plan for herself, fight for it, and test the attitude of the other party by the way. This is what her grandfather taught her. Since ancient times, there have been many icing on the cake, and few people have given charcoal in the snow, but what if? Wu Dongming was non-committal. In the box there are a handful of embroidery needles, a few of silk thread, and a few bags of unknown substances. Frowning slightly, what is this? Mu Wangqing immediately explained, it's a cooking condiment, this is salt, sugar, pepper, and cinnamon. The lack of seasoning in the small kitchen made her very dissatisfied. But in retrospect, there was no cooking in this dynasty. There are only several cooking methods such as steaming, boiling, stewing, roasting, and cold salad. Hey, it has not evolved yet. Wu Dongming, what the is this? He continued to scroll down, how did you think of bringing medicine? People will always get sick when they eat whole grains. What about myrrh? Mu Wangqing's tone was calm, and she pointed to the forehead that had been treated with emergency medicine. Wu Dongming has seen countless people of all kinds, but she is the only girl who makes him look directly. But you are rating. Not moving. Does she know what it means to loot? Is it less knowledgeable? Still a big heart? Mu Wangqing didn't want to talk to him, but after a little thought, she changed her mind. That's what I think. There are 3 kinds of results. One is to behead the whole family. Maybe she can return to her own world and start over. One is to return to the hometown, which is the best outcome, so be prepared for it. One is exile. She calmly analyzed. Exile was the most common punishment in ancient times. Before she could finish her words, someone started crying. She glanced lightly, it was the children of the big house, the noble young masters and ladies. Wu Dongming has seen her intentions, and can't help but feel a little emotional. Continue. The name of the eldest daughter of the Mu family is famous in the capital, but I didn't expect that the unknown third lady of the Mu family was so smart. You know how to plan ahead at such a young age. What Mu Wangqing is best at is to make corresponding response plans according to different environments. You can be cowardly, you can be arrogant, you can talk to people and talk to ghosts, depending on your needs. It is said that exile is more terrifying than beheading. The road to exile is a 9-death life, and the place of exile is a bitter and cold place where it is difficult to survive. However, it is better to die than live. If you want to live, medicine and clothing are the best important. So, she prearranged. She and her second brother wear so many clothes, which can guarantee their freedom of clothing. When the mountains and rivers are exhausted, you can change a few dollars. For convenience and practicality, she also abandoned the cumbersome women's clothing. The embroidered shoes are good looking, but I can't travel the mountains and rivers, so I put on soap boots that are convenient for walking. Wu Dongming couldn't help but look at her with admiration. Don't underestimate these things, they can be used in critical moments. You're very smart, why haven't I heard of someone like you before? Not only is she smart, but her xingxing is also first class. Even the third-rank officials have not accepted the cruel facts, she has calmly predicted in advance and prepared for the next step. Facing Wu Yiwei who ransacked the house, others were frightened and trembling, but she responded calmly, generously, and with amazing courage. Mu Wangqing laughed at herself, I'm some kind of person, but I'm a little smart, a weak woman who doesn't dare to take the lead, and tries her best to make herself mediocre. These words are too subtle, the room is silent, and they all look at Mu Jinyeo. In the capital, no one can steal Mu Jinyeo's limelight. In the Mu family, no one can be better than Mu Jinyeo. The eldest daughter is very heavy. Mr. Mu couldn't help but redden her eyes, and she felt distressed. When she married, she knew that her mother-in-law was ruthless under the gentle and loving face. She not only suppressed the second room, but also blocked her from time to time, showing filial piety suppressing their entire family, making them breathless. Don't look at the beautiful scenery of the family, but the life of their husband and wife is difficult, walking on thin ice, usually Loki and Loki. Although her 3 children are mediocre, she is very satisfied. Just now, she suspected that something was wrong with her daughter, whether she was possessed by dirty things. But now I understand that my daughter's temperament has changed suddenly, she is clearly trying to hide her excellence, and she dare not let herself be too good, even her close relatives. Her poor daughter, how could she be reborn in her womb? Second Master Mu is also very self-blame. He struggled to make a living in the hands of his aunt since he was a child. Fight. Wu Dongming understood the meaning of Mu Wangqing in seconds. She is the daughter of the second wife of the Mu family, how dare she be better than the eldest daughter? If she dared to take the lead, she would be slapped to death by the hostess early. Don't underestimate women, and don't underestimate the means of killing people without blood in the backyard. Then you are not afraid now. Mu Wangqing raised her chin and looked at the Mu family who were paralyzed on the ground like mud and the unconscious old Mrs. Mu. It can't be worse than this, isn't it? All fell to the mud, who is more noble than the other? Mrs. Mu can't hold back the second room, filial piety? Good reputation? My life is almost gone, I want these to be used for shit. Wu Dongming looked at her deeply, it's a pity. It's a pity that she is a girl. If she is a man, with her intelligence and ability to judge the situation, as long as the Mu family is continuous, it will definitely make the Mu family stand up again. He saw a lot of things, but the Mu family didn't understand. Uncle Mu has this ability, but his mind is not on it. The family's mind had already flown away, and they looked at the door eagerly. Waiting for the savior. Will you come? Well, it will definitely come. It's hard for others to say, but Ding Yuan Haofu will not sit idly by. This marriage was decided by the concubine in the palace, there is no reason to give up halfway. As time passed, they waited and waited, their necks stretched. Finally, there was a commotion outside the door. Mu Jinyeo's eyes lit up, come, finally come. The Mu family was flushed with excitement, their hearts were beating wildly, and they stared at the door in unison. The sound of footsteps outside the door is getting closer. The visitor is the big housekeeper of the Ding Yuan Marquis mansion, Rongda. As soon as he came in, he was stopped by Mu Zongde. Rongda, you are the only one here? What about your master? Why didn't you come in person? He was also posing as a noble third-rank official, but he didn't know that his hair was messy and embarrassed. Rongda looked indifferent like snow, and said sternly, Master, let me come and break the marriage. He completely lost the respect he had in the past. What? Mu family's complexion changed, Mu Jinyao's complexion was as pale as paper, and her slender body shook. Rongda took out something from his arms. This is the woman's gangpost, please keep it, Mr. Mu, please return the gangpost of my eldest son. Mu Zongde was shocked and angry, whose order is this? He also pointed to the Ding Yuan Marquis house to pull him. The official is not asking for reinstatement, but he wants to save his life and allow them to return to their hometown. Rongda was the most popular person in front of Ding Yuan Ho, and Mrs. Ho treated him politely. Naturally it's Lord Ho. At first she asked for marriage in a low voice, but now she turns her face and does not recognize anyone. He looked away. Mrs. Mu was angry and anxious. Mrs. Ho once said that she likes Jin Yao very much and will treat her like a daughter. She will definitely not agree. Before she could finish speaking, Rongda interrupted, Mrs. also agrees. Mrs. Mu's face turned pale, and she shouted, how can this be possible? Our two families have completed the 3 books and 5 rituals, and we only need to greet them personally. From the etiquette point of view, my daughter is already yours. People from Yuanho Mansion. Rongda sneered and sneered arrogantly, not to mention that you haven't married yet, even if you are married, you can quit. I'm here to inform you, not to discuss things with you. He didn't show any sympathy, which also represented the attitude of Ding Yuan Haofu. Mu Jinyao was greatly stimulated and burst into tears. Mrs. Mu was heartbroken when she saw this, and asked angrily, you are treacherous, aren't you afraid of being laughed at by the world? I can't believe the tutor of the eldest lady of your house. Mu Jinyao's face was completely bloodless, and her lips were trembling. Uncle Mu was furious, but how many of the big families are clean? The water in Ding Yuanho's mansion is muddy. Fart, it's impossible to break off the marriage, there are no girls in our Mu family who break off the marriage. Jin Yao, don't blame your father for being cruel, it's really a last resort. Mu Jinyao's eyes were flushed, and tears rolled down like pearls. I understand that a good woman does not serve 2 husbands. I was born from the Ding Yuan Marquis mansion, and died from the Ding Yuan Marquis mansion. Ghost. After she finished speaking, she closed her eyes and slammed her teeth against the wall. Everyone was frightened by this scene and watched her slam into it. Ah, don't! Mrs. Mu was frightened and scattered. Seeing it is about to disappear, it will lead to a tragedy. Fortunately, Miss Mu's forehead only cracked a little. She was paralyzed on the ground weakly, tears welling up, heartbroken. Mrs. Mu rushed over and hugged her daughter tightly, crying heartily. Why are you so stupid? Rongda breathed a sigh of relief. She looked at the crying poor Miss Mu and raised her eyebrows slightly. It is worthy of being one of the twins in the capital, with hills and ravines on her chest. They didn't want to seek death at all, the force of the impact was too light, she pulled it lightly. Of course, she thinks it's a good thing for girls to have some scheming, don't be fooled to be deceived. As long as it doesn't hurt anyone. The sound of stomach growling came from her ear. Mu Wangqing looked at the second brother beside her, he covered her stomach embarrassedly. Hey, I'm so hungry, something happened before the banquet. Mu Qingqing smiled slightly, took out 2 fragrant chicken legs from nowhere, and handed one over. Mu Xiang, stunned.jpg. Aren't you going to eat? Eat? Rong Da's eyes flickered for a while, then turned to Wu Dongming, took out a list. Mr. Wu, this is the list of dowry gifts in our mansion, it does not belong to the Mu family's property, please be accommodating and send it. Give it back to us. According to the process, the betrothal is made 2 months before the wedding, and the betrothal gift will be sent to the woman's house. At that time, part of the dowry will be turned into a dowry, which will be married with the bride. No, the Marquis of Ding Yuan sent the 68 betrothal gifts half a month ago, and they were all good things. Recovering these dowry gifts is the ultimate purpose of this trip. Mrs. Mu turned her head sharply and roared angrily, no, no, this is already something of our Mu family. Even if it is checked, it will go into the treasury. She would rather destroy the Ding Yuan Marquis mansion. They obviously can rescue Jin Yao out, and they can do it with reason. Rongda glanced at her disdainfully, with annoyance in his eyes, too ignorant, and didn't even look at the current situation of the Mu family. Master Wu, the imperial concubine said a few days ago that she appreciates your ability, and I believe you will have a broader prospect. The implication in his words was too obvious. Mrs. Mu was furious. These despicable villains, Master Wu, this is not in line with the rules. Wu Dongming's expression did not change. Suddenly, his eyes swept around the room. Finally, I found someone in the most inconspicuous corner. Miss Mu-san, what are you doing? Everyone followed his line of sight and couldn't help being stunned. Good guy, Mu Wangking is actually holding a big chicken leg and chewing it with relish. Mu Wangking, who was hiding in the corner, froze. Damn, why did she stare at her? Forget it, that's it, let's break the jar. She moved her body and cleverly kept the second brother who was stealing food together behind her. Mu Xiong was not as courageous as her, and stayed away the first time she was caught. Mu Wangking generously picked up the big chicken thigh and took a bite. The stewed chicken was very tender, but not tasty enough. Suddenly I miss fried chicken. What about dinner, Mr. Wu? It's time for dinner, are you hungry too? Or, let the kitchen make a good table for you? Our Mu family's banquet is very rich, start preparing a month in advance. Mu Xiong looked at her sister in admiration. She was not very courageous. You know, when she gave him chicken legs, he felt that this sister was a bit strong. But inexplicably happy, what is going on? Wu Dongming's eyes twitched slightly, and his face was cracked inch by inch. He is the feared deputy commander of Weiwei, even the prince is frightened when he sees him, how could she dare to chat with him? Mrs. Mu was very angry, and a fire in her heart broke out instantly. You're dying, how can you still eat? She is the same kind of person as Mrs. Mu, she looks generous on the outside, strong and mean on the inside, a delicate egoist. She bullied the soft and feared the hard, so she did not dare to attack Wu Yiwei, but only dared to attack Ruan Persimmon. Mu Wangking was not afraid of her, so she said coolly, I will try to be a full-fledged ghost when I die. Mrs. Mu, it hurts. Mu Wangking put the last bite of chicken in her mouth and stood up. She took out an oil paper bag from nowhere, opened it, and found a cooked whole duck, a chicken with 2 missing legs, and a few meat buns. She only left 4 buns, second brother, help me hold them. She had a chicken in her left hand and a duck in her right hand, all of which were brought to Yi Mu. Father, hurry up and patted your stomach, it's the biggest meal in the world. Only these few people are sincere to her, and the sincerity is just a change of heart, everyone else forgets it. Second Master Mu gave her a fixed look, then took over the food, pulled it hard, and gave the 2 duck legs to his wife and eldest son, Musican. He tore off a duck wing and ate it viciously. Daughter is right, be a full-fledged ghost. Mu Xiong handed the meat buns to her sister, Mu Wangking divided it into 2, half for one person, eat. The skin is thin and the meat is fragrant, and it is unexpectedly delicious. The aroma of food fills the air, making people swallow. Everyone looked at the 5 people in the second room and ate, and their mood was very complicated. How could they grab food with their hands in public? Irregular, rude, and outrageous. Several little ones looked greedy, but didn't dare to lean over. But in this way, the terrifying atmosphere brought by the raiding of the house was instantly washed away without a trace. Wu Dongming also thinks that this family is very strange. It seems that Miss Mu-san follows her parents. Where did this come from? It's not a bad rule to eat it in the kitchen. Mu Wangking was full, wiped her mouth with a handkerchief, and wiped her hands again, with an elegant and calm manner. By the way, before you leave, don't forget to bring the ingredients, everyone will share a share, don't waste it. Wu Dongming thought he had seen the world, but when he met Mu Wangking so generous, he actually choked. Rongda rubbed his eyes. This is Miss Mu-san, why does it seem like a different person? Forget it, he is too lazy to pay attention to it, anyway, they are a group of people without a future. He continued to entangle Wu Dongming, begging to take back the betrothal gift, and he used all 18 martial arts. Wu Dongming never spat out, and he didn't know which tendon he made wrong, and then named Mu Wangking. Miss Mu-san, what do you think? The full Mu Wangking was languid and was surprised to hear that. What does it have to do with her? No one listened to her. This is about the big room, you can listen to the ideas of the parties, such as Big Sister. Wu Dongming looked at Mu Jinyao, her eyes were swollen from crying, it was really pitiful. Mu Jinyao's eyes were full of tears, and her beautiful face was sad, which made people feel pity. I want to meet the prince. Mu Wangking raised her eyebrows, tisk tisk tisk, she is indeed a smart person, she wants to open a gap in the prince and move people with emotion. It's too late. Chunjiang Plumbing Duck Prophet, Ding Yuan Haofu has a concubine, well informed, and came early to break off the marriage, which has explained a lot of problems. The Mu family is set this time. She is not afraid of death, but she is afraid of being half dead and dying. Wu Dongming raised his eyebrows. Miss Mu-san, what would you do if you were in my position? Everyone's eyes are wrong. Mu Wangking rolled her eyes in her heart, didn't she just not be a crying cannon fodder? As for harassing her like that? She replied solemnly, you are an official of the Daki state and a servant of the emperor. If you encounter problems, of course you should ask the emperor. The emperor is just, strict, and wise, and will definitely do the most correct thing decide. Stance must be right. Wu Dongming couldn't help laughing, if she was a man, if she went into a career, she would be a minister. Fortunately, she is a woman and can't be an official. What he didn't know at this time was that this would be the only superheroine in the Daki dynasty. The prison is dark and damp, the air is cloudy, and there is a sour and rotten smell. One room for men, one room for women, the small prison was crowded with people. The usually pampered ladies and gentlemen sat on the ground in twos and threes, complaining to each other. There is no peace between the big house and the 3 houses of the direct branch, you blame me, I blame you, tearing endlessly, one by one is like a black eye. Only the second room sat quietly in the corner, not participating in anything. Mu Wangking exhausted her energy and fell asleep in her mother's warm arms. Mr. Mu looked at her pale daughter with pity. The child had so much blood on her forehead, which hurt her vitality. Hey, she can't even cook a bowl of soup for her daughter. Mu Wangking didn't know how long she had slept when she was suddenly awakened by an exclamation. The old lady is awake. The Mu family all looked over and saw the old lady Mu tremblingly lifted up and leaning against the wall. Mother! Mu Zongd in the opposite cell was very excited, you'll be fine. The old lady Mu is the ancestor of the mansion, she is very skillful and the backbone of the Mu family. She looks like she is 10 years old now, haggard, and her kind face shows a bit mean. She shouted loudly, don't cry, when our Mu family is not exhausted, there are countless relatives and friends running around to rescue us, Shuer and Wainer will also find a way, you can go out safely. These 2 are the daughters of old Mrs. Mu, and they are married well. With just a few words of hers, everyone's uneasy minds settled down. Zhang, still old and hot. Boss, think about your reliable relatives and friends, and find a way to ask them for help. Yes. Mu Zongd responded immediately. Old Mrs. Mu was the victor in the backyard fight, even at this point, she was very calm. The eldest daughter-in-law, the third daughter-in-law, you all find a way to contact your parents, let the in-laws communicate with each other, save us, and the whole family will not forget this kindness. These 2 are direct daughters-in-law. The only second daughter-in-law who was not named, Qianqi felt uncomfortable. Her family, not to mention. The 2 daughters-in-law responded, but Mrs. Mu-san hesitated for a while, But, how can we contact the outside? They have nothing now, no money, no power, how to get through the relationship? Old Mrs. Mew is confident, I have my own way. Seeing her so confident, the Mew family has a glimmer of hope in their hearts. Old Mrs. Mew is also a capable person. After a while, she chatted with a few prison guards, and the chat was very good and very warm. I heard that one of the jailer's fathers and grandparents did this, and he also got mixed up with a little boss dang dang, and Mrs. Mew's eyes flickered. Master, how many children do you have? It was not the first time that the jailer saw the official family in distress, but the wife of the official spoke to him with some respect and enthusiasm, and his vanity was greatly satisfied. 3 sons. You're so lucky, but you're all married. Mrs. Mew smiled kindly, if not, I'll take care of you and help you keep a matchmaker. The official's heart moved, my youngest son is not married yet. The old lady Mew smiled more enthusiastically, and pointed at Mew Wonking, who was sleeping in the corner, look, how is my granddaughter? She has been docile and obedient since she was a child. She is perfect in calligraphy and painting, and I love her the most. If I don't dislike her, I will betroth my granddaughter to your youngest son, what do you think? This. The prison guards were very excited, and they were divided into 3, 6, 9, and 9 classes. Their prison guards were the most inferior, and they were cheap, and they were very different from officials. The 2 daughters-in-law he married were both cheap women who didn't know big characters, and he dreamed of changing families. Marrying an official's daughter to improve the bloodline, and also bring the fragrance of books, this is a great good thing, I never dared to think about it in the past. However, it's a risk. The rules of the court, if the offender's female family is engaged, the man who is willing to fulfill the marriage contract can take the person away. The married aunt will not be implicated either. The rules are set like this, but it is human instinct to seek advantages and avoid disadvantages. After all, who doesn't have a few opponents, what if they are implicated? The old lady Mew smiled and looked at the concubine, second child, I will find a good place for the third girl, you don't have to suffer with us, what do you think? Second Master Mew always felt that something was wrong, but he couldn't understand for a while. As a father who loves his children, he naturally hopes that his daughter will be free from the sea of suffering. Thank you, mother. Uncle Mew's eyes flashed slightly, but he didn't say a word. Before Mew Yi finished speaking, a cold voice sounded, it's so good, why don't you let your granddaughter go? It was Mew Wonking. She rolled over and sat up, brushing her messy hair. I am willing to follow Kong Rong's example and let my sisters enjoy happiness. If she doesn't wake up, she will be pulled out and sold. Old Lady Mew is not a human being. Her father was abandoned and sold, and she helped to count the money. Third aunt, you are wrong. Mew Wonking retorted solemnly, my grandmother often told me to respect and love my elder sister, and never compete with her in everything. Let your sister. After all, they are the granddaughters of my grandmother's direct relatives. My father is a concubine. Our second family has no blood relationship with my grandmother. My sisters are more noble than me, and I understand them all. The jailer didn't understand until now, what is the most favorite granddaughter, a lie. Others also understood and looked complicated. Mr. Mew couldn't help but be anxious, old lady, since ancient times, children's marriages have been decided by their parents, I don't agree. Before she could finish her words, she was interrupted by an angry shout from the old lady Mew, the second child, you are disobedient to your mother-in-law, do you want to be divorced? Mew Wonking didn't intend to fight with others, and she became a prisoner, but the old lady's hand was so stench that she stepped on her bottom line. She said neither yin nor yang, that's great, hurry up and rest, let my mother escape. The old lady finally did something. Old Mrs. Mew stared at her with gloomy eyes. Mew Wonking was not afraid at all, and smiled evilly at her. Do you still regard yourself as a good old lady? Mu Zongde was furious. Mu Wangqing, how dare you talk to your grandmother like that? How did you learn the rules? In Mu's house, Mrs. Mu is the spire of the pyramid. Next are the two brothers Mu Zongde and Mu Zongwen, and then their son, daughter, and daughter-in-law. The second room Mu Zhongping was at the bottom and had no right to speak. Even the children of the third room did not take the second uncle in their eyes. Mu Wangqing smiled casually, "Uncle, the centuries-old Mu family was destroyed in your hands, and the foundation of the Mu family for generations was completely destroyed by you. You are worthy of talking about the rules. Anyone who asks for a face will be punished with death. Murder is nothing more than this." Mu Zongde was shaking all over, and his eyes were red. Everyone looked at each other, at a loss. Old Mrs. Mu looked at Mu Wangqing's eyes as cold as a poisonous snake, and she suddenly raised her face and gave a serious lecture. "Listen, everyone in the Mu family must put the family first, even if they sacrifice their own lives. Now that the Mu family is in a big disaster, it is the responsibility of the descendants of the Mu family to continue the family effort. She is very powerful, and the Mu family habitually listens to the training, yes." She looked at the concubine coldly. "Zhongping, you are also a descendant of the Mu family. You have been sheltered by the Mu family for decades, and you have enjoyed the brocade clothes and jade food for so long. It's time to pay for the Mu family." Mu Iryi felt bitterness in his mouth. If he drank a large bowl of huanglian, he would push them out as soon as he encountered an accident because he was a concubine. Uncle Mu is worthy of being a high-ranking official. His psychological quality has passed the test. He quickly recovered, and put on the air of an eldest brother. "Zhongping, do whatever your mother tells you to do. Is she an old man? Would be wrong." Third Master Mu nodded desperately. "Yes, it's worth sacrificing one person for the whole family." "Second brother, what are you still thinking about?" Mrs. Mu can't help but feel anxious. Why should she sacrifice her daughter? Just as she was about to speak, she was gently held down by Mu Wangqing, who raised her face and sighed. "The ancestors of the Mu family, what can your descendants do? Women seek first place in honor." "Uncle, uncle, you are really promising." As soon as these yin and yang strange words came out, the Mu family blushed. "Mu Wangqing, your surname is Mu, you are responsible." The old lady Mu said in Mu's house that no one could challenge her authority. Mu Wangqing thinks she has a good temper, but she can't make sense in the face of such an old lady. "Roll up your sleeves and do it." It's a good-looking person, who packs selfishness and viciousness into benevolence and righteousness. This is the importance of learning conversation skills. Big brother and second brother, you all learn something. Live in the widest yard, eat the best meals, wear the best clothes, and now they should be there when sacrifices are needed. Old Mrs. Mu had a face of disapproval, and said of course, the direct descendants are the most precious of the family, and they are the hope of the family. The progeny is used to pave the way, otherwise what's the use of keeping it? Mu Wangqing couldn't help laughing. "It's a moth, it's useless, she hides behind her parents when something happens, no waste. Her mouth is too poisonous," and every word poked into the pain of the Mu family. Isn't it? Since the house was raided until now, which descendant has the responsibility? One by one, they only knew how to beg for mercy. But if you see it through and don't tell it, the Mu family can't hang up. The old lady Mu trembled in anger. "Zhongping, you care about your daughter, what will it look like? Our Mu family has lost all face by her. It turns out that the Mu family is still someone who wants face." Mu Wangqing's eyes widened in surprise, her expression exaggerated. "This is the first time I know, ha ha. Hee, it's too magical." Old Mrs. Mu felt the blood all over her body rushing to her forehead, her face flushed red, and she was dizzy. Second Master Mu was afraid that she would be out of anger, and her daughter would not be able to escape the relationship. "Wangqing, just say a few words less." Since Mu Wangqing made a move, there must be a result. Now is the best time to break free from authority and rebuild order. The people around were inexplicably chilling, shivering, and there was a premonition that something bad was going on. Mu Wangqing's cool voice sounded, according to the Daki law, a daughter Su Erhu should be punished. Grandmother, what grudges do you have with this poor master? Do you want to harm others? Lord, I have a marriage contract. The jailer was stunned, and then he was furious. Old woman, you are deliberately hurting me. Okay, very good. The old lady of the rich family has a lot of hearts, but this is not the reason why she harms herself. The Mu family's face turned green, and it was over. The king of is easy to hide, and the little devils are difficult to deal with. If you offend the guards who look after them, is there still a good life? Old Mrs. Mu glared at Mu Wangqing. Don't listen to her nonsense, the little girl is shy, she has never engaged in a marriage. Speaking black as white, lies come when you open your mouth, without blinking your eyes. Your tactics are quite good, and he is worthy of being the champion of house fighting. Unfortunately, Mu Wangqing annoys others the most. This messenger, the white bread is delicious, but we also need to see if the filling is poisonous. Isn't it? The jailer sneered, looking at the old lady Mu full of anger. This was deliberately digging a hole for him. He didn't dare to take revenge, but it's okay for them to wear small shoes. The old lady Mu was in a coma at the time, and she didn't see Mu Wangqing bring out the marriage certificate. Her face changed a bit. Shut up, you are not qualified to speak here, messenger. Her mind was racing, desperately trying to make up for it. Look, I've become angry. Mu Wangqing is not afraid of her, she is just a paper tiger now. Everyone in the Mu family was stunned. What was she talking about? Old goddess? This is her first grandmother. Is this crazy? Old Mrs. Mu was mad, she should have strangled her when she was born. Mu Wangqing, I don't have a granddaughter like you. But when she betrayed Mu Wangqing in exchange for benefits, it was doomed that the two could not coexist peacefully. Unless Mu Wangqing is willing to be her pawn, let her be at the mercy of her, sacrifice herself to illuminate others. However, Mu Wangqing is a cool and selfish modern person. Imperial power, clan concept, unconditional filial piety, I'm sorry she doesn't have any. Grandpa often said that if you are poor, you will be alone, and if you are successful, you will help the world. Now she is in a precarious situation, and she just wants to save the lives of herself and her family. She has clear grievances, whoever treats her well, she treats whoever is good. Whoever dares to plot against her, she will make the other party regret it for a lifetime, it's that simple. The messenger, she is giving you a set, once you accept it, you will get on her pirate ship. She tells you to face east, you dare not face west. She takes a flower like a flower Jade's granddaughter, you must be decapitated. Then a cover-up crime can wipe out your whole family. The jailer broke out in a cold sweat. OMG, it's scary. He glared at the old lady Mu fiercely, the most poisonous woman's heart. Mu Wangqing said with a smile, You have little knowledge. The backyard women are best at killing people without blood, and they can destroy everything you do without making a sound. Like me, grandmother is a master in the house, the final winner of the house fight. She has overthrown her own men and opponents. Her son has inherited everything in the house, raised the scumbags, suppressed them in every possible way, and let their descendants serve as stepping stones for her own children and grandchildren. The means are playful. There was silence in the prison. Not only Mu family members were dumbfounded, but even the people in the prison next to them were dumbfounded. How brave! Dare to say anything. Old Mrs. Mu was spoiled by her parents' family. After she got married, she was the best mistress of the house, and now she is an almighty old lady. No one dares to disrespect her. Mu Wangqing, how dare you talk like that? In fact, Mu Wangqing is a very peaceful person, but Mrs. Mu has touched her bottom line. In the past, your son was a third-rank official, and you were the ancestor of the mansion. I only thought I was deaf and blind, and I only saw and didn't speak. She smiled so beautifully, innocently, but inexplicably chilling. Now, the Mu family is over, who is more noble than who? There will always be a day when the Mu family will turn around, and then she won't let this dead girl go. Mu Wangking asked coolly, 1 or 2 years, or 5 or 10 years. I just don't know if you can live to see that day at your age. All. The old lady Mu was furious, zonged, expel her from the Mu family, remove her name, she is a person without clan in life, everyone casts aside, and she will be a lonely soul after death. Wild ghost. Second Master Mu couldn't help being anxious. No, mother, the child is still young and ignorant, I apologize to you on her behalf. He winked at his daughter, Wangking, apologize. Mr. Mu also tugged at her daughter's sleeve, signaling her to take it as soon as she saw it. No matter what, it is not filial for the younger generation to meet the elders, and it is not good to hear it. Mu Wangking winked at her, and said cheerfully and loudly, Uncle, please drive our whole family out. If it wasn't for the Mu family, we wouldn't have to go to jail. Her words were like a thunderbolt, breaking open a new world. The concubine of the third house of the Mu family is not to be outdone. Grandmother, I don't want to go to jail, I don't want to be beheaded, you hurt me the most, help my grandson. The third Master Mu shouted loudly, Mother, let's kick our 3 rooms out, I'd rather be a person without a clan. These are the hearts and souls of Mrs. Mu, but at the critical moment, she tried her best to clear the relationship, and she was so cold. The old lady Mu vomited blood in anger, her eyes turned white, and blood was dripping from her heart, and she could not care about tearing Mu Wangking. The corner of Mu Wangking's mouth slightly raised, this is the grandson that the old lady loves most. A group of idiots, don't even think about when this is, it's still possible to get rid of the family before the accident, and now, it's absolutely impossible. In the first game, Mu Wangking vs. Mrs. Mu, win. Royal Palace, Imperial Study. The world's most honorable father and son sit face to face, sipping tea and chess, while the golden cauldron on one side curls with light smoke, and the room is incense. The chief said softly, Your Majesty, Wu Dongming, the deputy commander of Weiwei, came to return. The emperor's eyes fell on the white jade chessboard, let him come in. Wu Dongming didn't dare to look much after he came in, and respectfully greeted the emperor and the prince. Get up. The emperor looked nonchalant, and was holding a white child in his right hand. Wu Dongming then stood up straight and carefully presented the checklist. The emperor raised his eyes slightly, flipped through it at will, and handed it to the prince beside him. The prince was dressed in regular clothes, with a face like a crown of jade, handsome and unparalleled, but his complexion was not very good, and he was a little sick. Ding Yuanho's mansion is quite willing, some of the betrothal gifts are rare treasures. Hey, this is what the Mu family has accumulated over the generations. The Mu family has been a first assistant and a governor who guarded one side. The ancestors have been honored and beautiful. This does not match what I found out. There are many things, but not as much as I imagined. The emperor knew the situation of the Mu family very well. Each generation of the Mu family will divide the family. According to the family rules of the Mu family, the direct descendants who inherit the Mu family account for half, and those who go out will share the other half equally. In this generation, Mrs. Mu did not split up until she was still alive. She cherished her young son and was reluctant to split up like this. It is the family members of the third-rank officials, and it is good to enjoy the shade under the big tree. Once they are separated, they will be in vain, and the marriage of their children will be difficult. The Mu family has been rich for 100 years, their daily life is extravagant and luxurious, and they are full of pomp. Even their maids are pampered and dressed in gold and silver. Women are in charge of housekeeping and business management. An old lady Mu is not good at business, but she is short-sighted, greedy for power and loves money, and refuses to delegate power to the people below. The two sons she gave birth also followed her, one loves money and the other loves power. The prince raised his eyebrows lazily, the father was so displeased with the Mu family. The emperor just said casually and turned to look at Wu Dongming. Will this trip go smoothly? It went well. Wu Dongming hesitated, but... The emperor frowned slightly. Wu Dongming felt tight, the third lady of the Mu family is a wonderful person. He recounted the whole process of raiding the house without any emotion, without concealing it or adding fuel to it, he explained everything one by one. Hearing Mu Wangqing's flattery to him, the emperor was a little stunned and a little complacent. Well, what kind of flattery does such a young girl know? The prince suddenly became interested. You mean, this third young lady sings praises to the father and emperor in public? Is it very natural? How old is she? It's normal for an official old fritter to act like this, but if it's a little girl, a little joy. The emperor had no impression of Mu Zongping's room at all, and he picked up the information and looked through it. He couldn't help but ask one more question. Wu Dongming was prepared early. I interrogated the servants of the Mu family, the second room was severely suppressed, and life was difficult, and I could not go out without the permission of Mrs. Mu. In the official position, the three children below her knees are all mediocre, but I think Miss Mu-san is smart and clever. Out of curiosity, he deliberately inquired about the second room. No, it was used. The emperor shook his head slightly. Old Mrs. Mu has no vision and heart, it's a pity that such a loyal man. In his opinion, Mu Wangqing is just a girl raised in a boudoir, how can she understand this? There is only one possibility, the father has a deep sense of righteousness and is loyal to the king, so that the child will be so sensible. Thinking about it this way, I have a pretty good impression of the second room of the Mu family. I have to say, this is a beautiful misunderstanding. What about Miss Mu? Wu Dongming smiled slightly. Miss Mu-san is more introverted. It was very subtle. One is calm and prepared for a rainy day, and the other is pretending to threaten death. That's right, Mu Jinyao's method didn't hide from his eyes, and he didn't say anything. At this moment, a voice came from outside, Your Majesty, the concubine and the third prince ask to see you. Wu Dongming's scalp was numb, and he secretly screamed that it was not good. He preemptively asked, Your Majesty, what should I do with the dowry in the Ding Yuan Haofu? The emperor said without hesitation, confiscation. Yes. Wu Dongming secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, he withstood the pressure and did not return the betrothal gift to Ding Yuan Haofu, which was in line with the emperor's wishes. Well, credit her. The emperor pondered for a while. Investigate the case as soon as possible, don't delay. Yes. Wu Dongming waited for a while, seeing that the king did not speak again, and then retired. When he went out the door, he saw the imperial concubine's mother and son, and hurriedly stepped forward to salute. I have seen the imperial concubine and the third prince. The imperial concubine looked noble and did not look at him. The third prince was young and vigorous, so he couldn't bear his temper. Mr. Wu, I heard that you just copied the residence of the minister of the household. He came from a noble concubine, and was spoiled as a little bully, extraordinarily pampered and self-willed. Wu Dongming had a headache when he saw this little ancestor. It was unreasonable, but the emperor just liked it. He answered straightly, according to the emperor's orders. The third prince questioned dissatisfiedly, Ding Yuan Haofu wants to return the dowry, why don't you? Is this deliberately hitting the mother's face? Wu Dongming doesn't give Yuan Ho face, that is, he won't give face to him and his concubine. This ignorant dog minion. Wu Dongming bowed his hands with a respectful face, don't dare, this is the emperor's will. The implication is that if you are dissatisfied, go to the emperor to make trouble. Actually, he knew that the third prince was taking advantage of the topic, who made him not accept the solicitation of the third prince, and did not invest in others? I don't even think about it, is Wei the prince who can reach out? In such a hurry to recruit forces to suppress the heir, what does the emperor think? Turning your face is like turning over a book, and your mood is changeable. Wu Dongming lowered his eyes. How can the royal family be so stupid? I don't know how many masks are on my face. Willful? Coddle? Outrageous? Probably all masks. However, their Wei Wei is the emperor's direct line and only loyal to the emperor. When they stand in line, they will die. The imperial concubine did not expect to see the prince here, her eyes were slightly heavy. The third prince pursed his lips, saluted with a smile on his face, and kept talking. The sons of the Ding Yuanho's mansion are prosperous, consume a lot of money, and have long been unable to make ends meet. Father, for the sake of Ding Yuanho's loyalty, you should return this betrothal gift. Ding Yuanhao will definitely be grateful to Dade. He talked for a long time, but he didn't get a reply from the emperor. He didn't understand a bit, father. The emperor glanced at him lightly, and finally came to Chrysostom. You are late, everything has entered the treasury. Once it is in the warehouse, it is national property, not what you want to take. Word Terminator. 3 princes. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Playing with him on purpose, right? So angry, is it still my father? However, he made a package with the Ding Yuanho, what should I do? He subconsciously looked to his mother for help. The imperial concubine shook his head slightly at him, it was a foregone conclusion. The third prince was frustrated, and glared at the prince quietly. The prince must be instigating. The prince raised his eyebrows, half smiling. His younger brothers had grown up and had more ideas. The Mu family spends the new year in prison, and every moment is torment. Eating, drinking and leasing are all in a small space, and the smell of the toilet is so high that it makes people sick. The porridge was as thin as water and had a musty smell, which was worse than pig food. The pampered Mu family couldn't bear this hardship. They deeply suspected that they were wearing small shoes, who made old Lady Mu offend the jailer. Some people didn't dare to say it, but they blamed the old Lady Mu in their hearts. There is really no way to do it, the pig food is also eaten, everyone bites the bullet and closes their eyes. After a few days, the Mu family looked pale, lost a lot of weight, and seemed to be drained of energy and sick. The tempting aroma of food came from the cell next door. The white rice was mixed with the oily stewed broth, which was very fragrant. The Mu family stared at him, salivating. I never touched this before, it was too greasy, but now I am crying. Old Mrs. Mu didn't eat well and sleep well, her complexion was extremely poor, her rich body quickly lost weight, her old face became thinner, and there were many more wrinkles. Mu Zongde looked at Jin Sun, whose saliva was drooling, then looked at his haggard mother, pressed his twitching stomach, stood up and saluted. This brother, can you give my old lady a share? It doesn't matter if we don't eat it, but the old lady is old and will get sick if she doesn't eat it. Begging for something to eat for the old lady and grandson, he can also rub some. The other party is a strong man with 5 big and 3 thick, full of market spirit, and raised eyebrows. What are you dreaming about? Your old lady is sick and it's none of my business. These noble ladies and gentlemen do not understand the sufferings of the world, and do not think about it. Is it easy for ordinary people to eat meat and white rice? They are all prisoners, who is more noble than whom? They are all the same people, why should I give you precious food to eat? Mu Zongde was ashamed and annoyed, but his greed for food prevailed. We will return the Mu family 100-fold in the future, so. As long as they are willing to spend money, the jailer will provide 3 meals. Mu Zongde's expression froze, his eldest son muttered angrily, if we want money, will we still ask for help in a low voice? The valuables were all seized, and the poor were left with only one mouth. The strong man was very impatient, then count on relatives and friends to deliver meals to you. As long as the money is open, everything can be discussed. He took a big mouthful of grilled rice, and under the watchful eyes of the Mu family, he just took pride in eating the delicacies of mountains and seas. He has it, others don't, it's cool. Mu Jinyeo leaned against the wall weakly, her face flushed abnormally, and she felt extremely uncomfortable. Grandmother, why aren't the first and second aunts coming? The old lady Mu also wanted to ask, it has been several days, why haven't the two daughters appeared? The husband's family is rich and powerful, so it's not difficult to spend some money to make them feel better in prison. It will come, it may be temporarily caught. These words are unconvincing, even she herself does not believe it. Mu Wangqing sat in the corner and watched coldly. Even Qin Hui had a few good friends, but why did the Mu family get along so badly? Not only did no one come to visit, but there was no one to deliver a meal. Or, the Mu family's situation is so serious that they are too scared to get involved? Mu Jinyeo was held in the palm of her hand as soon as she was born. Seeing no one to lend a hand, there is no hope, and the mind is becoming more and more fragile, the body is uncomfortable, and the painful frown. Mrs. Mu looked at her daughter worriedly and touched her forehead, it was very hot. She panicked all of a sudden, I have a fever, please ask a doctor, sir, please help me get a doctor. The jailer on duty was the one who offended Mrs. Mu. Hearing the pleading, he said coldly, come on, it depends on her life. Mu Jinyeo was placed on a high level by the Mu family since she was a child, expecting her to marry and help her family to a higher level, and now it is considered to be the only chance to make a comeback. So, they are all anxious and begging the jailer. The jailer has a hard heart and just ignores it. The third sister has medicine in her hand. The eldest daughter-in-law, Mrs. Sun, suddenly remembered. The Mu family all looked at Mu Wangqing. Mrs. Mu angrily reprimanded, third girl, why don't you say anything when you have medicine? Take it out to save people, even if you are jealous of your big sister, you can't let it die. This is as if the second room owes them. Mu Wangqing frowned. She didn't want to save her, but waited for them to speak first. Don't blame her for anything. The Mu family is not unreasonable, but depends on people. But obviously, in Mrs. Mu's eyes, Mu Wangqing is the object of her anger. Mu Wangqing was lazy to reason with her, and would never wake up those who pretended to be awake. 10 taels of silver per medicine. These people have developed the habit of asking for anything for the second room. For the sake of their future life, she will help them set rules. Mrs. Mu was furious, we are a family, how can you talk about money? Before she could finish speaking, Mu Wangqing interrupted impatiently, don't forget it. Uncle Mu scolded coldly, second brother, you take care of your daughter, how can such a Philistine look like a descendant of the Mu family? It's tarnishing the lintel. Second Master Mu is an honest man. If you ask for it, he is very good at talking. But he loves his children, you say he can, but his children are not. I can't handle it. Mu Zifeng is the grandson of the eldest house, and she is very dissatisfied with Mu Wangqing, where do we get the money? Then write an IOU. Mu Wangqing said lightly. No pen and paper. Mu Zifeng has a lot of heart. Mu Wangqing didn't answer him at all, sir, do me a favor. This busy jailer is very willing to help, but he is deliberately making it difficult for him to get along with the big room of the Mu family. No way, Mr. Mu had to write an IOU. Anyway, he just went through the motions and didn't plan to pay it back. Mu Wangqing carefully folded the IOU, put it away slowly, and then picked out a medicine from the box. You decide whether to eat or not, don't come to me if there is a problem, it's useless. Neither the original owner nor she was jealous of Mu Jinyeo. Mu Jinyeo took the medicine and fell asleep. It's time to eat. The sound of knocking on the rice bowl sounded. This time I went to get food, no matter how bad it was better than being hungry. For the first time in their lives, pampered people know how hard it is to be hungry. Mu Wangqing's mother and daughter also took it, each one had a bowl of thin porridge and 2 wauhutu. Mu Wangking was not in a hurry to eat. She broke the wauhutu and dipped it in the porridge, and then ate it after it became a paste. Second Mrs. Mu also followed her example to break the nest. Mother, it's really too bad to eat, and I don't know what's afraid of inside. Chinger, you have suffered. Mu Wangking was thrown into the military camp by her grandfather during the summer vacation of high school, to exercise her independence and sharpen her mind, and also learned a lot of skills. However, I have never eaten such unpalatable food. She is a person who goes with the flow and does not have high requirements for material things, except for food. Be patient. She smiled sweetly, our whole family is together, so it won't be bitter. Mr. Mu's eyes are red, such a well-behaved and sensible girl. While eating, Wei Wei came and the jailer warmly greeted him and flattered him. But the amazing thing is that he saw the girl in the corner eating gooey at a glance. Her complexion was not good, but her expression was calm. He directly named him, bring Mu Zongd up for interrogation. The two guards in Wei opened the cell and took Mu Zongd out. Mu Zongd's clothes were wrinkled, his beard was shaggy, his face was disheveled, and he had a bad smell. He looked flustered. Master Wu, what else do you want to ask? I'll be honest. Wu Dongming did not rush to leave, but looked at the crowd. Miss Mu-san. Everyone looked at Mu Wangking, a little gloating. She will be taken too? Ha ha ha, you deserve it, make you crazy, make you proud, make you disrespect your elders, make you unfilial. Especially the old lady Mu, a trace of resentment and pleasure flashed in her eyes. Mr. Mu grabbed her daughter's hand nervously, her face turning pale. Mu Wangking gently pushed her hand away and walked over to her. Mr. Wu, is there anything? Wu Dongming said nothing and stuffed an oiled paper bag over. Mu Wangking was stunned. What happened? She looked down and saw that there were 6 white buns, white and fat, exuding an alluring fragrance. She was stunned. What happened? She counted again, no more, no less, exactly 6. Is it, Shun? 6 or 6-un? Can the Mu family survive this time? Don't worry about beheading. She looked up, a smile flashed in Wu Dongming's eyes. She was really a smart little girl. Anyway, it's a little effort, no harm, no one can fault it. When he left with Mu Zongd, everyone couldn't wait to gather around. What is it? Ah, white bread. The saliva is down, I want to eat like crazy. Mu Wangking waved away the stinky crowd. What to squeeze? I know you all crave white bread. However, have you forgotten that these days, the second room has been excluded from the cold? Since she tore her face with old Mrs. Mu, the Mu family regarded her as a thorn in the flesh. If it wasn't for fights not allowed in prison, they would probably want to tear her apart. Mu Wangking was not affected at all. It was a trick that only 3-year-old children played, and it was a blessing for them to play so seriously. How do I know? Go ask Master Wu. Who dares to ask? No one dares to seek death. The old lady Mu questioned maliciously. How can you not know? It's not that you didn't learn well at a young age and deliberately hooked. Falling from the cloud to the bottom of the valley, the gap is too large, and the mentality is extremely unbalanced. She hated Mu Wangking. This is what the elders said? Mrs. Mu was so angry that she cried. The children and grandchildren have not lived enough. She asked with a cool smile, Third uncle, what do you think? Come on, let's make it together. The third Master Mu jumped up like he was being pricked by a needle, and shouted in rage, Mother, don't talk nonsense. Other descendants were also anxious. Grandma, please shut up. Can we talk about the adults of Wei Wei? Grandma, you are old, are you confused? They are already miserable enough, and if they offend Wei Wei again, they will let no one live? Who is still in the mood to coax her? Her chest hurts. Mu Wangking took out a white bread and gave it to Mrs. Mu. Mother, eat it. Mr. Mu's mouth was watering, and she couldn't wait to bring it to her lips. She suddenly stopped and looked at the family opposite. Your father and brothers haven't eaten yet. Second Master Mew was also very greedy, and he hadn't eaten well for several days, but he labored to look away. No, you eat by yourself, my sons and I are both men, and we can handle it. Live. The wife and daughter are frail, so eat more. The two older brothers shook their heads in spite of hunger. Mew Wangking didn't say anything when a gloomy voice sounded. Our Mew family is a scholar from generation to generation, we have backbone, we don't eat what we come for, and return it quickly. It's Mrs. Mew, posing as an elder's lesson. Actually, Mew Wangking is not allowed to be better than her daughter. Obviously, Mew Wangking just gave her daughter a medicine. Even if it's a transaction, it's not so frivolous. Mew Wangking took a big bite of the white bread, which was fluffy and soft, and the delicious meat sauce melted in her mouth, bringing the ultimate taste pleasure. She was particularly surprised. Ah, it's actually a meat bun, with a thin skin and a lot of filling, and the meat filling is tender and juicy. It's delicious. Mr. Mew took a bite completely uncontrollably when she heard it. God, it's really a meat bun, so happy. After eating pig food for a few days, a meat bun is supremely delicious. The mother and daughter devoured the food, and the food was really greedy, and everyone else was crying, and their minds were about to move. Mew Wangking eats very slowly, tasted carefully. She saw through their thoughts at a glance. Don't try to rob, everything that happens here will be reported, and then. She didn't finish her words, leaving enough room for reverie. The jailer on one side has long thought about it, and Master Wu only looks at this little girl differently. Naturally, there is a reason. He didn't dare to ask more. It's always right to take more care. Whoever breaks the rules will be dragged out and beaten, no matter if they are killed or maimed. How dare you make a fool of yourself when you hear this? Just dare to stare at the drool. Sister Wangking, my little girl hasn't eaten much, and she can't hold it any longer. Please do it well and give the child a bite. This is the daughter-in-law of the sixth aunt's family, Mrs. Zhang, holding a sick little girl in her arms. Children's throats are delicate, they can't eat too rough food, they're too hungry to cry, and they have no strength to cry. She is not right with the big house, but she has no problem with young children. The two little girls ate the meat buns in large mouthfuls, a book full of satisfaction and happiness. Others looked greedy and wanted to grab it but didn't dare. Third Master Mew was very dissatisfied. Why do you share it with them? They are all useless girls' movies, they should be eaten by the men in the family, men. That's what keeps the incense going. Mew Wangking didn't lift her head, and said lightly, because I'm also a girl, it's okay for girls to help girls. Everyone, it makes sense, but there is no way to refute it. Mrs. Mew-san looked at her pair of daughters pitifully at the meat buns, drooling, and a tingling in her heart. Third girl, respecting the elderly and kind children is a virtue, we are a family, you should give it to the eldest old lady in the family first, and then to the frail children. Before she could finish speaking, Mew Wangking interrupted, wrong. What? The second room is a family that loves each other. This is Mew Wangking's definition of family, there is only a small family, there is no concept of a big family. She pointed to the mean-faced old lady. Mew, you, relying on your identity, suppressed our second room everywhere, trapped us in the mansion, and forbid us to go out, for fear that we would emerge, it was out of kindness. She pointed to the third Master Mew again, you, disrespectful to the concubine, you don't have brothers and sisters in your eyes, it's injustice. Holding it to my brother's family, desperately trying to get benefits. As for the uncle of the head of the family, he only knows how to protect his own interests and is an official fan. He knows that the second room has been wronged but pretends not to know, not enough atmosphere, not a qualified family head and brother. This is also the main person responsible for the decline of the Mew family, and it is unkind. She pointed to Mrs. Mew again, as the eldest aunt who is the mistress of the house, she is deliberately harsh on the supply of the second house, picking thorns in the eggs, and the intestines of chickens. It is not virtuous. Note 1. A generation is worse than a generation. The popularity she pointed out was not good, and her face was distorted. But what? Can't beat her, can only stare hard. Look, who is afraid of who? She shook her head and sighed, Mew family, it's rotten from top to bottom, everyone is extravagant, and it's no wonder that they don't lose. She scolded and felt relieved, Master, please give this oil paper bag to my father. There are 3 meat buns, exactly 1 per person. The jailer was very polite to her, and he was naturally helpful. This is exactly his attitude, and the rest of the Mew family dare not step forward to grab it. Second Master Mew distributed the buns to his 2 sons without hesitation. Third Master Mew on the side was readied. Good second brother, divide me into 1, my limbs are weak and my heartbeat is racing, I am going to starve and sick, we are good brothers of direct relatives, you don't want to see me fall, right? His skin is thick enough. The eldest son of the big room, Mu Zifeng, swallowed. He was already hungry and angry, and there was only one thought in his mind, to have a good meal. Second uncle, give me 1, I am the eldest grandson of the Mew family, more honorable than anyone else. Among the juniors, he is the oldest, already married, and has a son and a daughter. The daughter is the little girl whom Mew Wangking gave half a bun. But now, there is no such thing as a grandson of the eldest grandson. Second Master Mew hesitated. He was brainwashed since he was a child, and he was educated to be humble and sacrifice for the family. Mew Wangking is not used to these people. Hey, it's too easy for my brothers, I didn't dare to argue with others since I was a child, and I would be scolded for eating a few more pieces of meat. Get a small kitchen to cook, but the ingredients and materials you can get are the worst, you can make your own clothes, and you have to repair the broken furniture yourself. You are obviously a child of the Mew family, and your life is not as good as that of the common people. The second room has suffered a lot for this small kitchen. The grandson of the firstborn family is different. If you eat delicious food from the mountains and seas every day, the meat will be boring. Throw it to the dog and not to the cousins. Hearing this, Mu Xiong grabbed the bun and took a bite. It was really fragrant. Dad, big brother, eat quickly. People don't give him meat, he doesn't give them meat buns, there's nothing wrong. Mu Er and his son also ate under great pressure. Third Master Mew was furious, how dare they treat him like this? Good things should belong to him, why should the second room fight with him? A concubine born to a maid, Ba. He was furious for a while, jumped up and rushed towards Mu Er without thinking. Everyone rushed to grab it, the scene was quite chaotic, Mu Er was trampled several times. In the dark prison, the dark side of human nature is infinitely magnified. Show your ugliest side. What kind of tolerance, what kind of comedy, what kind of virtuousness, who are you pretending to see at this time? They only have one purpose, to live well, even if they step on the bones of others. The Qianqi couldn't help but be in a hurry. Mu Wangking frowned and shouted loudly, Master Messenger, my third uncle is going to rebel. A stick was swung over, and third Master Mew was caught off guard, screaming in pain. I'm not, I don't fight. The stick flew to others again, and wherever it went, they knelt down and begged for mercy. Brother Mu Xiong quickly stepped forward to help his father up. Second Master Mew's clothes were torn, his hair was scattered, and his eyes were full of annoyance. I only tasted my meat buns. The buns have been robbed and divided by several people and entered their stomachs. Everything that happens here will be reported. Wu Dongming couldn't help laughing after listening to the jailer's report. Have a scheming, a means, a benevolent heart, a clear distinction between right and wrong, not bad. From now on, give her 6 meat buns per meal. Yes. The jailer didn't understand, just for the buns. enough. Wu Dongming's words were meaningful. Why does she have it and we don't? It's not fair. Dissatisfied? Tell me to be fair. The jailer sneered and waved his stick. Mu Wangqing didn't eat alone either, each person in the second room shared one, and the extra one belonged to her. She usually only eats one, and then eats some pig food to fill her stomach, and the remaining one will be distributed to others according to the situation. It's either a well-behaved cub, or a sickly girl, or to please her. Do not suffer from widowhood and inequity, and do not suffer from poverty and anxiety. Relying on this meat bun, the jailer in charge helped her again. She stunned the water and broke the situation of this group of people crowding out them. Mu Wangqing doesn't matter, but her parents and brothers are people with a clan concept and cannot be independent from the outside world. She never mixes, she just sits on the sidelines, and when she is happy, she will share a little with those who perform well. Unhappy, what about them? The border is bitter and cold, the yellow sand is flying, it is a wild land, and the environment is particularly poor. Moreover, many people could not reach their destination and died of illness on the way to exile. A few passed out on the spot, and some were crying. Mu Wangqing breathed a sigh of relief. She was fine, she was a craftsman. Seeing Jianxi who was crying silently, she persuaded softly, "Mother, don't be afraid, there is me." Mr. Mu looked at her delicate and weak daughter and wanted to cry even more. Can the family reach Liangcheng safely? She has absolutely no confidence. Mu Wangqing has high fighting spirit and is full of expectations. It is endless fun to fight with the sky, it is endless fun to struggle with the earth, it is endless fun to struggle with people. Note, 2. Outside the city, a group of prisoners in shackles stood on the side of the road, looking back at the capital, looking sad and confused. Distributed to Liangcheng thousands of miles away, can I come back in my lifetime? Dying in a foreign land, unable to return home, is the final outcome of many exiled sinners. Will they be one of them? In contrast, female dependents and men under the age of 10 do not need to wear shackles, and it is not that hard. In the second room of the Mu family, only Mu Wangqing and her daughter are not wearing shackles. Wangqing is wearing a set of men's clothes that have been changed to a smaller size. This is changed from the second brother's clothes, and she has a refreshing ponytail. She also asked Jianxi to sew a furoshiki out of the cut cloth, and wrapped a few pieces of clothes in a box. This is all the luggage of the second room. Poor, but better than others. Others are really barefaced, penniless, and don't know how to get through the difficult path of exile. Many people died on the road of exile. It can be said that this road is a near-death experience. Even in exile, few people can survive safely. She looked around. In addition to the Mu family, there was also the Fang Yukan family, the former head of the military department. There were more than 300 people. As for the slaves, they are all sold, and I don't know where they are scattered. The 30 officials in charge of escorting, they have 5 carriages and several horses, scattered around the prisoners. The leader of the Yamen, surnamed Zeng, was tall and sturdy. He rode majestic on horseback and stared at these prisoners. Mu Wangqing kept collecting information and analyzing information quickly. Suddenly, the happy voice of Aunt Lu next to her ear came from her family. Not only came, but also sent clothes and dry food, which made the 6th aunt's family very happy. This got off to a good start, and everyone else's relatives and friends came to see them off. Second Master Mu and his wife just stayed quietly without any expectations. Mu Xiang couldn't help but ask, "Dad, will someone come to see us?" Second Master Mu smiled wryly and shook his head slightly, "No. The second bedroom is almost at home, so where is the opportunity to make friends? As for relatives, no one looks down on the second bedroom." "Where is the grandfather's family?" The eldest son Mu Zikan asked curiously. He didn't seem to have seen the grandfather's family. Mr. Mu Er looked at her husband and son wearing shackles, distressed, why did the old lady choose me as the second daughter-in-law? It's because my mother's family is not strong. She was born in a merchant, and her status as a merchant is not high, not to mention that her biological mother died early, and she did not have a sibling of her mother. The stepmother gave birth to a son, and the backyard is her world. So, even if she was harsh on her stepdaughter, no one dared to say anything. After she got married, her family saw that there was no light, so she simply cut off contact. The second room was chatting about everyday things, and the third room was jumping in a hurry. Second Master Mew looked at the rising sun and became anxious. Mother, why haven't the two younger sisters appeared? It's impossible for them not to know about it. Uncle Mew frowned. If you don't come again, we'll be on our way. The marriages of the two younger sisters are carefully selected, which can bring help to the family. Marriage is the best way to marry two surnames. We are each other's relatives by marriage. Here, the second aunt is here. The Mew family was shocked and excited as if they were looking forward to a savior. A carriage stopped, the curtains were lifted, and the maid helped a beautiful woman in plain clothes to walk down. Mrs. Mew elongated her face and was very unhappy. Why did you come? She has 2 layers of mother-in-law on her head, and a sister-in-law who likes to compare. Life is not easy. My mother-in-law has never allowed me to go out. I sneaked out. She had 2 sons by her side, so she dispelled the idea of her husband's family abandoning her. Her mother's family is a woman's backer, and her son is a woman's confidence. Now that her mother's family is gone, she can only be a man with her tail between her legs. Old Mrs. Mew's face was not good looking. At first, she only wanted to rely on marriage, but she forgot that this circle is the most snobbish and shrewd. Once lost, he turned his face and did not recognize anyone. It's not easy for you. Where's your eldest sister? Second Aunt Mew frowned. She is more difficult than me. She has only 1 daughter under her knees. The Su family is clamoring for divorce, and she can't go out at all. Uncle Mew couldn't help scolding. Snobby, not a thing. The marriage of the Su family was approved by him personally. In the beginning, she was humiliating to please, but now she is ruthless. Third Master Mew stretched his neck impatiently. Stop talking about this, what have you prepared for us? Second Aunt Mew is a filial and considerate person and prepared 2 scooters. My mother is old and can't stand the long journey. I can feel more at ease with this transportation. The 2 pallets also piled up a lot of things, clothes, shoes, and socks, as well as various daily necessities. Everything is the same, 1 for each room. She only prepared 2 copies, completely forgetting that there is a second brother. There is a difference between the concubines and concubines. She has always looked down on the second brother from the concubines. She also gave Mrs. Mew a sachet containing 3,000 silver notes. These are her private money, and she was married at the beginning. Pinching the money, Mrs. Mew has confidence in her heart, and the children and grandchildren have to respect her if they want to live comfortably. I count on you. Second Aunt Mew is a well-informed grandmother, and she promised, don't worry, I know what I know. Not only that, she also asked her subordinates to bribe the officer with money. Don't ask for more attention, just ask for no embarrassment. This is also a routine operation, and usually it will be an official job. The Mew family couldn't wait to open the package to check. Ah, there are oily patties. Everyone rushed up and scrambled, like a starving wolf, all greedy. They only cared about eating for themselves, and they forgot to let Mrs. Mew eat first. Second Aunt Mew saw this, took a meat pie and gave it to her mother herself, and said deliberately, 2 brothers, you must be filial to your mother. If she has 3 strengths and 2 weaknesses, I can do not depend. Uncle Mew understood the beating in her words, and hurriedly said with a smile, this is also our mother, even if I don't eat it myself, I will let my mother eat it first, without your order. The third Master Mew also patted his chest to assure. Barabara said a few words, then the wind changed. Second sister, you blow the pillow wind more, coax more husband's family, quickly get us back to the capital. Second Aunt Mew naturally agreed, and walked over to her most beloved niece in a blink of an eye. Jin Yao, cheer up, you are one of the famous twins in the capital, I don't know how many men love you, are you willing to sink in? Listen to me, live well, only there is hope in living. Mu Jinyao has been sick all the time, she is suffering from heart disease, second aunt, I. Aunt Mu interrupted softly, don't forget, when you were born, the fortune teller said that you were indescribably valuable, I am convinced of this, and you must believe it, I will try my best to get it. Come out. She can't save the whole family, but if she finds those admirers, she may be able to save her niece. The niece is talented and beautiful, and one day she will rise to the top. Her words moved Mu Jinyao, and the whole person was refreshed. The second aunt gave her niece a wink and secretly stuffed a sachet. Mu Jinyao squeezed it lightly, and it was a silver note. She quickly hid the sachet, and a fluttering heart finally fell to the ground. The third master Mu was full of food and drink, and began to sigh, second brother, I don't have your second room, so I ask you if you don't regret it later. It's such a cheap mouth. There is nothing in the second room, not even a meat pie. Yi Mu is used to being treated differently and is not angry. The third master Mu has to make an inch, you let the third girl kneel and admit her mistake, maybe the mother will be kind and reward her with something. These words evoked Mrs. Mu's memory and caused strong dissatisfaction, humph, I don't have such an unfilial granddaughter. The second aunt only saw the second room family. Hey, they seem to be in good spirits, much better than others. Mother, what's the matter? The third master Mu couldn't wait to complain, she humiliated us in prison, ate alone, and even made the mother dizzy. Unfilial. Murdered. Mu Wangking flickered slightly, avoiding the opponent's attack, and then shouted. She doesn't take the initiative to cause trouble, but she is never afraid of trouble. The whole audience swiped and looked over, their eyes were surprisingly bright, it was time to watch the show. Hearing this, second Aunt Mu's hand froze in the air. Mu Wangking roared even louder, everyone, come and see, don't miss it when you pass by. The eldest grandson of Sun Shangshu's family bullied others, saying that she was going to kill her niece. Potential. As soon as these words came out, passers-by gathered around, 3 floors inside and 3 floors outside. Mu Wangking laughed, the emperor is kind and generous, leaving me a small life, you are more powerful than the emperor. Second Aunt Mu was so frightened that she rushed over to cover her mouth without thinking. Shut up, don't talk nonsense. One sentence kills invisible, she is seen, it is the first time she knows that this niece has such ability. Mu Wangking pulled her hand apart and muttered, 200 taels, hush money. Hush fee? The second aunt glared at her fiercely, thinking beautifully, are you crazy, you dead girl? Mu Wangking was not happy, 500 taels. She raised the price as soon as she disagreed, and suddenly, screamed in panic. What? Sun Shangshu asked you to do this? Why? He wants to show off more ability than the emperor? Hungry god! The audience was silent, shocked, stunned, and faintly excited. Fight, fight! Hurry up! Second Aunt Mu felt the despair that came to her face, and her eyes were black for a while, she really wanted to faint, and she didn't have to face everyone's strange eyes. This matter will definitely spread, and she doesn't dare to think about her husband's reaction. But she held on, she couldn't just faint, and she would be finished if she didn't settle the matter. Will be abandoned. She gritted her teeth and said in a low voice, okay, I promise you, but you have to settle things. Give me the money first. Second Aunt's chest hurts with anger, she bears the humiliation and takes out 500 taels of silver bills and hands them over. The useless second brother actually gave birth to such a cunning daughter. She underestimated others. In front of everyone, Mu Wangking accepted the silver ticket generously, smiling like a flower. Let everyone open their eyes and see, being out of prison does not mean that you can turn over and become the master. The key point is Mrs. Mew. Dare to bully her, no matter who she is, she will not be polite. This is called killing the chicken to warn the monkey. The second ant is the chicken. It turned out that I misheard. My second ant just wanted to give me money, but I can't even do it. Is that right, second ant? Yes. Second Aunt Mew's face turned red, and she squeezed a word out of her teeth, gnashing her teeth a bit. Everyone. Your aunts and nephews really know how to play. Mew Wonking smiled and hugged everyone. I'm sorry, I can't eat well in the prison, I can't sleep well, my mind is not very clear, it's my fault for talking nonsense, I'll make up for it for everyone. She said so, and it is difficult for others to say anything. As for whether they believe it or not, only they themselves know. Mew Wonking felt in a good mood when she touched the banknotes. She had to pay for food, drink, and Lassa along the way. She doesn't care about the glares of the rest of the Mew family and the resentment of the second aunt. The money is delicious. Having money is good. She walked up to Master Zhang who led the team, raised her head, took out 200 taels of silver, and presented them with both hands. Master Zhang, here it is, this is money for the road. As the saying goes, if you take someone's money, if you take her money, you should protect one or two. Master Tsung. He lowered his head and looked at the thin little girl. He had never seen such ability before. What's your name? Mew Wonking, the second room of the Mew family. Master Zhang was stunned for a moment. It turned out to be you. She is really an unconventional girl, she is open-minded, eclectic, flexible, sober and rational. Mew Wonking was slightly surprised. Have you heard my name? Master Zhang nodded slightly, but accepted the money without explaining much. Mew Wonking made up her mind, happily returned to her parents, and handed the remaining 300 taels to Mew Yi. After all, he was the head of the family. Second Master Mew refused. You can take the money you got with your ability. He has been abandoned and has a cowardly personality, but he gave birth to a courageous and determined daughter. He is not smart, but he knows a truth. He believes that Wonking will not treat her family badly. Every meal in prison is a meat bun, and she never eats alone, which gives him enough confidence. Mew Wonking smiled slightly. She was better than countless people just by grasping this clearly. As soon as the gongs and drums rang, it was time to set off. Everyone reluctantly said goodbye to their relatives and friends. No matter how reluctant they were, there was a difference. This parting, the mountains and rivers are far away, and I will never see you again in this life. The road ahead is vast. When is the return journey? When the second aunt sobbed softly, she did not forget to stare at Mew Wonking. Mew Wonking doesn't care, she is a tool for sending money. Everyone is in a bad mood, shrouded in depression and depressed. But soon, they don't care. Although it is autumn, the sun is quite poisonous, and the body will soon sweat like rain. The physical strength is rapidly lost, the hands and feet are sore and the whole body is aching, exhausted. The old ladies and gentlemen who are well preserved have suffered such hardships. The feet of women wearing embroidered shoes are worn out, and every step they take is painful and gasping, like torture. Mew Wonking is fine wearing men's soap shoes, and her wool is very firm. But Jian suffers, she is already weak. Second Master Mew saw his wife's face as pale as paper, out of breath, unable to open his eyes, and collapsed. He was very distressed, squatted down. I'll carry you. He wears shackles, which makes it difficult for him to move, and it is even more inconvenient to carry people. Mr. Mew also felt sorry for him. No, I'm okay, I have to adapt to this kind of life, there is still a long way to go. Brother Musican was surrounded by his parents, helpless and full of frustration. Mew Xiong is more worried about her delicate and weak sister. Ching'er, are you okay? Mew Wonking was also very uncomfortable. She was thirsty, her throat was unbearable, and she was about to smoke. But facing the worried eyes of her parents, she licked her chapped lips. I can do it. A scooter passed by them, and the old lady Mew was sitting on it, surrounded by several great-grandchildren. When she passed the second room, she glanced lightly, full of disgust and hatred. To blackmail her daughter's money. A bunch of evildoers. What is the use of a few hundred or two? They have nothing to eat or drink, and they have to walk every day to see how long they can last. She would bet that they could not reach Liangcheng safely. She opened the lid of the sheepskin water bladder and took a big mouthful. A strange sense of satisfaction filled her heart, as if she had returned to the era of the old lady who said nothing. Rich, car, filial son and grandson, perfect. The only bad thing is that the second room gets in her eyes. However, it will soon disappear. The eldest lady of the big house and her two daughters-in-law took turns pushing the cart, and the two delicate daughters walked behind with difficulty, sweating and breathless. Another trolley was full of luggage and supplies, pushed by Mrs. Mew-san, tired and panting. Mother, you have to find a way to get rid of the shackles of men, otherwise it's not enough for us women to push the cart. Actually, the men in the Mew family are not good either. They can't keep up with their physical strength. They are so tired that they collapse. But who can move them? You and I have been discussing for a long time, but no result has been negotiated. Mr. Mew took off her embroidered shoes, her socks were stained red with blood, and blisters appeared on her feet. Second Master Mew squatted down to treat her wound, and when the powder was sprinkled, her aching face was deformed. This is just the beginning. What will happen in the future? Not only the second room is like this, but others are also terrible. How many miles is this? It's only a few miles. It hasn't left Jiangyi yet. Everyone looked at each other, their heads were big. How long did it take to reach Liangcheng? Eat. This is outrageous. Many people didn't eat wild vegetable dumplings, they took out the dry food sent by relatives and started eating. This is also the reason why the yamen is rushing to the exile road for thousands of miles. Mew Wangking looked around, everyone was eating steamed buns and pancakes. Aunt Six came over with some white flour pancakes. Brother-in-law, try my parents' craftsmanship. Qian was stunned for a moment, then politely declined, you don't have many, so keep it for the children. Give it to Xiaoqing. Sixth aunt just stuffed the pancake into her hand before going back to eat. Mew Wangking often served the children of the sixth aunt's family to eat meat buns in prison. Close. But, the three sons of the sixth aunt's family are all strong men, and they eat a lot, which is really not enough. She thought for a while, then stood up, Dad, let's buy some food too, come with me. Okay. Even if she didn't mention it, Second Master Mew would accompany her to avoid suspicion. The yamen burial in the stove to cook, a pot of white rice, a pot of simmering, and everything in it. But, Mew Wangking lost her appetite. She found Mr. Zheng and took out a silver note, Sir, I want to buy 5 water bladders from you. Master Zheng looked at the girl with a calm expression, she was so calm in this situation, she was really unusual. Row. With a wave of his hand, he gave 5 water bladders, and also the clean water inside. Second Master Mew was overjoyed, took the water bag and handed it to his daughter, Qing'er, drink quickly, your lips are peeling. He is really a good father, Mew Wangking warmed her heart, took 2 sips of water to moisten her throat, and felt much more comfortable. Sir, can I cook by myself? It's very fast, don't waste time. Just sell me a few bowls of rice and a few eggs. Master Zheng was stunned, his mind racing, okay, but if you delay the trip, you will be at your own risk. Good. 6 bowls of white rice, 6 eggs, a small spoon of lard, and 3 water bladders cost a total of 12 taels of silver, which made Second Master Mew distressed. These things are not worth the price at all. But there is no way, if you don't buy it, someone will buy it. Mu Wangking searched the field again and found dogwood and wild onion ginger. As a result, we encountered problems in practice. There is no wok. They use ceramics for cooking, and they don't have a shovel for cooking, and naturally they don't have cooking oil. What to do? There are no conditions to create conditions to go. She found a flat stone, rinsed it in water, and heated it. Crack the eggs, put them into the rice and stir well, so that each grain of rice is fully covered with egg liquid. The conditions are very difficult, but with excellent craftsmanship and exquisite control of the heat, a pot of fragrant egg fried rice is fried. The fragrance is fragrant and spreads around quickly, the fragrance is particularly overbearing. At the beginning, the chef was still a little unhappy. Does this look down on his cooking skills? Still look down on his cooking skills? But out of curiosity, he glanced at him from time to time. Looking at him, he was suspicious of life. How could he still be like this? Amazing! Dishes are not like vegetables, and rice is not like rice, but it is really too fragrant. The Mu family watched eagerly, feeling that the meat patties in their hands were not fragrant. Mu Wangking first gave Mu Iryi a bowl. Mu Iryi involuntarily sniffed and saliva flooded. The Musa next to him was anxious. Dad, how is it? Is it delicious? Second Master Mu's mouth was bulging, and he nodded frantically, unable to speak. What else do other people understand? Immediately looked at Mu Wangking and wanted to eat. A voice said, "What is this?" It's Master Zeng, he didn't know when he came. Broken gold rice. Mu Wangking invited with a smile, "Sir, would you like some too?" Master Zeng had eaten 3 bowls of rice. He wanted to refuse, but looking at the golden egg fried rice, he suddenly felt that he could eat a little more. Half a bowl then. Soon, he regretted it. If time went back to just now, he would say, "Fill me a big bowl. Ocean bowl. Ah, it's so delicious that I cry." The fragrance of green onion and the thick food of rice are perfectly combined, the egg is tender and tender, the rice is fragrant and smooth, and the fire is just right. The particles are clear and full of fragrance, and every bite is full of happiness. The taste buds exploded from the tip of the tongue to the base of the tongue, getting the ultimate satisfaction, like opening a new world. Hey, what did he eat before? It's pig food. Master Zeng devoured it with a big mouthful, and the food was particularly greedy. The cook on the side was so anxious that I wanted to taste it. But he didn't dare to fight with his boss. After eating the last bite of egg fried rice, Mr. Zeng was still not satisfied. He couldn't help but look at Mu Wangking. This little girl has something. He made up his mind, let the chef paint a scoop according to the gourd for dinner, and then have a pot of broken golden rice. The name is really good. Well, it takes a big pot to eat at one time. It was night, and the chef enthusiastically copied the broken golden rice, but for some reason, the color was not right. People are golden like gold, why are you, so hot like shit? Look, no appetite. Strange, how do the same steps make the taste so different? How could he know that although egg fried rice is ordinary, it is the most test of chef's craftsmanship? The chef's assessment item, egg fried rice is the basic test item. Of course, that's another story. Mu Wangking divided the rest of the egg fried rice into several portions and gave them to the family one by one. What's more, Mu Wangking prefers rice to pasta. The stomach of the Mu family was also conquered by this bowl of egg fried rice, which was amazing. It turns out that there are such delicious things in the world. After eating a big bowl, when Mu Ziyang looked at his sister's eyes, she said, "Sister, how did you come up with the idea of cooking with stones? It's delicious too." Fried rice with slate is a genius idea, which shocked his whole family. Just think about it. Mu Wangking said casually, "I'm smart." Mu Ziyang nodded vigorously, not proud, "Yes, my sister is the smartest girl in the world, no one." To my sister, he is convinced. She has shown great intelligence and power these days, which is heartbreaking. It is right to listen to her sister. Xiaoqing is really capable. Musican also praised that her sister is much more capable than him. Second Master Mu and his wife even praised her to the sky. Mu Wangqing narrowed her eyes with a smile. The pear vortex was shallow and sweet as honey. The family was happy, the atmosphere was just right, and a cold hum sounded, humph. Mu Wangqing turned her head to look, it was the old lady Mu, staring at her meanly. Master Zheng was there just now, and the Mu family did not dare to make trouble, even if they were greedy. As soon as they left, the Mu family couldn't help but attack. The third Master Mu loudly accused, "Second brother, this is your fault, how can you not give your mother something good first? Your mother raised you, married you, and gave you a wife and children. The responsibility of a mother, you actually eat alone, is this how you repay her for her kindness of upbringing? It is hypocritical to speak in the name of an old lady even though she is greedy." Uncle Mu looked disappointed, "Second brother, no matter what, we are a family. At this difficult juncture, we should help each other and support each other." What she said was sanctimonious, but she was actually greedy and sour. Of course, the most important thing is to change the pattern of shattering and reorganization back to the original, back to the era of his family. Second Master Mu is stupid and at a loss. But Mu Wangqing was different, nodding solemnly, "That's right, send us a scooter, my mother's foot is broken and she can't walk, let's get some more ready-to-wear suits, a few pairs of shoes, some food and drink." Before she could finish speaking, Third Master Mu became anxious, "Impossible. The entire team has only 5 scooters, the Fang family has 3, and the Mu family has 2, which are very precious materials. Clothing and food are in short supply, and they themselves don't have enough." She once slapped Mu Zongde in the face, and Mu Zongde was very displeased with her, but he did not reveal it on his face, and persuaded him well. "It's not that I don't give it to you, but that there is no excess. This road has to be taken step by step. Everyone is like this. Don't be too squeamish. It's good for you to get used to this kind of life early. I understand, the good is yours, the bad is the second room." Mu Wangqing had long seen the true colors of these people. "You are only allowed to eat and drink well, and we are not allowed to do more. Take a bite, I wish I could cut our meat to feed you, so family members don't want it." After Mu Sanyi was in prison, he completely let himself go and was completely shameless. "Second brother, what's the use of such a savage and selfish daughter? Hurry up and drive her out of the house, so as not to be dragged down by her. How can he be so embarrassed about a little girl who has not reached her hairpin?" This touched Second Master Mu's inverse scale. "Why is it useless? She gives me meat buns and broken golden rice, and she will share what she eats with her family. Third brother, your filial piety, what delicious food did your children bring you? Come on, hurt each other." Third Master Mu is so angry. He has 2 daughters and 1 son, the 2 daughters are direct descendants, and the only son is from his favorite concubine. They only know how to cry, like a frightened chicken. "As long as there is the scourge of Mu Wangqing, my eldest brother and I will not help you, let alone share anything with you. Without Mu Wangqing's thorn, they can ride on the head of the second house to make a fortune and enslave the second house. This road is full of dangers," and I pointed to the second room to rush in the front as cannon fodder. Second Master Mu said without hesitation, "My daughter is worth everything in the world. She is not a scourge, but a little lucky star of my family and our pride." He knows that he has no ability, and his sons are not outstanding. He couldn't resist, but his daughter did it. He was so proud and happy inside, his daughter was amazing. Mu Wangqing was stunned, a heat surged into her heart, and her eyes gradually became wet. This is a father's love, right? Warm makes you want to cry. You will regret it. Third Master Mu became angry, "I want to see where your second room can go without the protection of your family." Old Mrs. Mu sneered, without scooters and supplies, they won't be able to last long. Third child, don't waste your time with these people who don't know the current affairs. I don't admit that they are Mew's family. At this moment, a blue cloth mule cart slowly drove up to them. The carriage was covered with a layer of blue cloth, which was very ordinary. The Tsingyi coachman raised his voice and asked, "Is this the house of the former household servant?" "Yes, who are you looking for?" The driver looked happy. "Who is Mu Zhongping, second master Mu?" Everyone looked at Mu Zhongping sitting in the crowd. Mu Zhongping stood up uneasy. "It's me." The cyan curtain was lifted, and the man sitting in the carriage stuck his head out. "My surname is Cheng, and I am the second housekeeper of the Cheng family." Cheng family? Everyone couldn't react for a while. Ah! Mu Zhongping remembered it, patted his head and showed a happy smile. "Jing'er, come here, this is your husband's house." It's rare that they are affectionate and righteous, so they catch up on purpose. "Send off." Mu Wangqing glanced lightly. The man didn't get out of the car, just lying on his stomach and talking, but he didn't respect people very much. But here comes the chance she wants. Sure enough, the second housekeeper interrupted aloud, "I am here on the order of the master to break off the marriage." The crowd was in an uproar, with different expressions. There are those who are sympathetic and those who are gloating. The third master Mu laughed happily. "Ha ha ha, I know, who would want to marry a disobedient and unfilial daughter-in-law. Butler Cheng, well done." The second housekeeper was a little surprised, but he didn't think much about it. "Second master Mu, it's not that our Cheng family doesn't have faith, it's just that we can't do anything about it. Your Mu family was exiled to Liangcheng. I don't know when I can only come back. I can't let my young master wait forever, and finally become a loner." He spoke very politely, and accurately grasped the other party's psychology. Second Master Mu is a reasonable person. He hesitated. "This." Mr. Mu gently tugged at his clothes and said loudly, "What's so difficult about this? We just happened to marry Qing'er back home. Then you don't have to follow them to exile in Liangcheng. That won't work." The butler was in a hurry, only to realize that he had revealed his traces after speaking. He frowned in embarrassment. "I mean, Miss Mu-san has been in prison and her reputation is flawed. The Cheng family absolutely cannot accept it. Mrs. Mu, if it were you, would you be willing to do you want such a daughter-in-law?" "I don't want it, I don't think it's clean." Mrs. Mu unceremoniously fell into the trap. "Second child, hurry up and quit your relationship, don't stalk our Mu family." Second Master Mu was in a turmoil, and looked at his daughter subconsciously. "Qing'er." Mu Wangqing glanced at it calmly. "Your Cheng family has entrusted a lot of relationships to look for marriage papers. As soon as I opened my mouth, it was king fried." The second housekeeper was shocked. "How do you know?" His words stopped abruptly, his expression turned blue and white, and he couldn't help but carefully look at the girl in front of him. "This is Miss Mu-san who is engaged to the young master? How is it different from the legend?" Mu Wangqing smiled and said calmly, "You will never find the marriage certificate, because it is in my hands." This answer was beyond the expectations of the second housekeeper. No wonder, after dredging up and down for so long, they did not get the marriage certificate. After thinking about it, I can only find the parties to solve it. His response was quick. "Miss Mu, please return the marriage certificate. The Cheng family will remember your kindness." My wife said, "It's not that you are bad, it's that our two families are missed. I wish you all the best." Third Miss Mu will find a good match as soon as possible. He can speak well, and his posture is very low, no wonder he can get into the butler's position. Mu Wangqing opened her black and white eyes, the corners of her mouth slightly raised. "That's it." "What?" The second housekeeper was at a loss. He asked himself to be a human being, but he couldn't see through Mu Wangqing's thoughts. Mu Wangqing casually glanced at the Kingview mule cart. "What's the use of saying kindness?" The second housekeeper flashed a glimpse of realization, but he couldn't believe it. this is you. Mu Wangqing hates people who pretend to be confused the most. How much do you think your Cheng family's reputation is worth? What is the future worth of your young master? The second housekeeper's face changed a bit. Miss Mu-san, your reputation is also very important. Mu Wangqing waved her hand and smiled. First, you deliberately dragged us out of the city and walked a few miles before you showed up, and you acted in such a low-key manner that you didn't want to make trouble. Big. Second, the Cheng family's master is now the 5th grade, the 4th grade is the watershed, and he has stepped into the ranks of high-ranking officials. With his age and qualifications, it is a bit difficult to cross this watershed, and his reputation very important. Thirdly, the young master of the Cheng family is going to participate in the imperial examination, and his reputation is precious. If there is a reputation for being cold and unkind, his future is limited. What do you think? Too much scruples, but fall into passive. His eyes were gloomy, flickering, and suddenly said, debt of death is eliminated. Everyone gasped, so cruel, if they disagreed, they would kill their fiancé. The Cheng family is amazing.